So you're ready to get an edge on one of your serves, whether it be your flat, your kick, or your slider, or you're ready to learn one of the previous mentioned serves. So if you take a look at serve mechanics, especially once we're familiar with all the moving parts, there's 8 moving parts, but if we can get 4 or 6, we can still have a pretty advanced serve. If you're not familiar with the moving parts of the serve, check out the video that's linked. That will help you step by step, 6 steps that you need in order to get an advanced serve. But assuming you have these, let's talk about the orientation of the toss. Because at the professional level and a very, very advanced level, and the mechanics are all mostly staying the same regardless of the serve that they're hitting. So whether they're hitting a flat serve or they're hitting the kicker or the slider, everything stays largely the same except maybe small nuanced pieces. It's the toss that differentiates them. So let's talk about what toss is appropriate for each serve. All right, first up is the flat serve. And as you saw, the toss is located at 12 o'clock. Now 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock works for this. 1 is the most popular, but I'll talk about the 12 o'clock toss for just a moment. Now this is what I use largely through my competitive days, through college and after. But I ran into an issue with flexibility, and this is what I want you to be aware of. Although tossing at 12 o'clock is okay, if you are not flexible or you get tight in the shoulders, you can start having impingement issues. All right, so for me, I got out of college, I wasn't playing a ton of tennis, I got into lifting. I know you can tell I'm massive now, but once upon a time, I got really into lifting. And I lost some flexibility up through the shoulders. And as a result, what ended up happening is that I was getting into an impingement. So as I was working through the toss and then the serve, as my arm was coming through, I was extending the head of the shoulder, but I wasn't working out far enough. And as you can imagine, those tendons, once the shoulder, everything it opens, that encapsulated space becomes open, the tendons become vulnerable. And that 12 o'clock serve can make issues with the shoulder. For me, it was a bucket tear, right? Labrum bucket tear and a rotator cuff tear. Still haven't had surgery on it, PT my way through it. Health science has come a long way, thankfully. But I want to warn you with the 12 o'clock serve, you can find a little bit of extra power, and I think it's a little easier to control, but you need flexible shoulders. So the toss at 1 o'clock is going to be the safest for the shoulder health, and it also helps because you can disguise the slice serve. We'll talk about the slice serve later, but this is the one that we see the most. So as far as the flat serve goes, you have 2 options. You have 12 o'clock and you have 1 o'clock. The 1 o'clock is going to help get the ball further in the court a little bit more, but can have some consistency issues due to the variance of the toss. So the kick serve, it's all about getting the toss above you or slightly behind you. Now, the serve, the kick serve, the tossing locations where it's acceptable is 11 o'clock, as we just saw there, and 12 o'clock. Now, the key here is that you also lean in. This is gonna help accentuate getting the ball behind you. So a lot of times when you hear, us talking about tossing more parallel as if you were going back to say like 9 o'clock, this is just help you to really kind of trust getting that ball listed to that 11 o'clock. But if you look at advanced serves across the board, typically the toss is just going to this 11 o'clock location. Now 12 o'clock, as you can see here, picture in picture, this is about getting more disguise off of it. So combined with the flat serve, if I'm tossing as if at 12 o'clock and my opponent maybe reads kick, I can then flat, or vice versa. They read the flat, then I can kick and really take advantage of maybe some space that's opened up in the court. But the two acceptable ways to hit the kick serve, you really want to focus on 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. For you more advanced players, 12 o'clock is going to be accessible, and this is going to be about really working through the hand, you know, molding the clay, if you will. If you're just trying to figure out the kick serve, 11 o'clock is going to make it happen organically. So focus on getting the toss back behind you to 11, and you're going to find more of that upward motion to the ball. Up next, the slider. All right, so as for the slice serve, if you're just learning it, the easiest way to find it organically is tossing all the way over at 2 o'clock. And the reason being is your arm comes around, you get forced to catching under the chin and then wrapping the ear. That creates this slice. Now, if you, as you get more advanced in your playing, if you continue to do this, you're gonna you won't be able to sell it, right? Meaning that your opponent is gonna see it and make it pretty obvious. Now, if you hit it well enough, maybe it just doesn't matter. But for the rest, what we see, especially looking at the advanced serve, we take a look at the tour, we're seeing the toss at 1 o'clock or even 12 o'clock. So the acceptable toss locations on the slice are 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock. 11 o'clock doesn't work, all right? Just it's too vertical, it doesn't all come together. So let's talk about the other two that are accessible. So at 1 o'clock, you can truly work that wide serve. This is one of my favorite serves to use, and it allows you, like I mentioned before on the two, to really play under the ball and then across. So you're really thinking about this working from like 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock and cutting that edge. It's not like the old adage of cut the ear off the ball. It's not that thin. We need some strings on that ball to get that force. So 1 o'clock is going to be your best friend here. Now where you want to use 12 o'clock, and these are interchangeable, but this is my personal experience, what I see that players have the most success with, is that at 12 o'clock it works really well disguising it. My favorite serve in the world is the ad court, to where I'm tossing at 12 o'clock. It looks like it might be flat or kicker, and then I'm actually sliding to the tee. Now you can do the same thing on the deuce court as well. Sorry, the deuce court as well. If you toss at 12, you can find that tee serve or maybe body or even out wide. But being able to hit serves all from the same spot is an extremely valuable tool to have. It's like being the Greg Maddux of tennis. You have all the pitches, right? And this is what made Federer one of the best servers of all time. It's not his sheer power. It's not maybe the clutch gene that Sampras had on his serve, but he just had all the pitches and he kept everyone off balance with his serve. So the better you can disguise it, the better. The better you can disguise it, the better, Kenny. The redundant factory. All right, so when you get out there and practice this, just see what works best for you, all right? Because if you have all three serves, you're already a threat to most of your opponents. If you can find each spin, the slice, the kick, and the flat from one location, even better. Guys, really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button, share it with somebody that could use some help with their serve, and you never want to miss a Play Your Court video, hit the subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out the comments for that the video with the 6 parts to the serve, so that if you have any mechanical issues that you're struggling with, you can fix them by checking out that video there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.